Hey, Daniel, so happy to have this moment with you and that we're going to work together on Finding North. Um, we've known each other for years. We've been in parallel and doing gigs next to each other and around each other, but it's a joy for me to be able to do this together with you. So thanks.
Thank you, David. It's an honor and a pleasure, man. I'm such a fan of what you do and your unique position in the world uh, as doing what we do.
Well, speaking of that, Finding North is a project that is rooted in interviews and in history. So I know you've done really quite a bit of work in this realm as well. There aren't that many storytellers or actors who do this kind of thing and going into communities and finding stories and creating performance pieces out of them. Tell us a little bit about what you've done in that work.
So one of my most recent projects was interviewing people who went to the March on Washington. I had a colleague who was very upset that the march came and went without a lot of fanfare. This is about 6 years ago, and the anniversary. And so she asked me to write a play about the March on Washington. And as I was writing this, I realized that it's just so flat if I'm just taking history. Like documentaries do it better because you see pictures. So what I decided was, what if I found people who went who did not know that they would hear, like the other 250,000 people, the I Have a Dream speech. And then I asked myself, if they were young people, why did they go? And because 1963 was such a violent year, why did they take the chance? And so many of these people that I interviewed, the stories started kind of coming through the music they were listening to, the memory of the day, the reasons that they went, the trip there, the day itself. And so that was one of my more recent projects. I just recreated their stories from sunup, from getting on the bus to the I Have a Dream speech moment, and then the epilogue of their lives. And so
Awesome.
that was probably one of the most recent things. And that's had an opportunity to tour and um, and I will say, thank goodness for that, because many of the people that I interviewed are now experiencing some heavy health issues, and so their stories will live forever in this play. And these are people that history is not marked in any books, but they were part of history. You let them tell the story and see what comes out of it, And I'm curious to see how that has been for you, in some of your favorite projects.
I loved how you say it because you're preserving stories too. These are stories that very well could be forgotten. And
Yeah,
what's the name of the piece you did about the March on Washington?
it's called March On.
March on. Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Naming something is a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So Finding North it has that double meaning too, because it's Finding North is how we think about getting our bearings. What are we focused on as our goal?
Mm.
And Finding North is also literal historically about as it represents laws that were more just, where people could be freer, of course, in the northern states, but even more so in Canada. And so when I started Finding North research in Cincinnati, which was a hub of the Underground Railroad, uh, there was a riot there. A young black man was killed by a cop, and suddenly the streets were, like today. The streets blew up, rage, outrage, and right. And I was in the middle of it. I was
Mm.
literally in the middle of it, and I thought, man, this story is not an old story. This is not a reminiscence. This is not remembering. This is alive here now. And so I pivoted and started interviewing people from all different walks of life and all different shades and colors of the rainbow, to use the Jesse Jackson line, but it was really important for me that this was not a story about something that had happened, but it's a continuing story of justice. Daniel, you're a great actor and you're a writer. You do so many different projects, and you can say yes or no. You get a lot of offers. I just was curious why you said yes to this one.
You, because one, I trust your artistry, and I am glad to be connected with it. And when I say you, I mean even your reasons why you want to do this, just sort of channel like the stories of what it means, what freedom means, and what the idea that you've crossed over into a space where before you were sort of in this space of kind of despair, but looking towards hope, or even finding a moment, and that moment could destroy without that hope. And I thought, what a very interesting and beautiful way of framing, the human story and resilience of that story. There's a lot of people who sort of operate in a space of cultural appropriation,
Mm,
just for the sake of cleverness, just
mm,
for the sake of I can morph or I can transform. But
mm,
your reasons for even shifting it, are really, really honorable. And
mm. There's
yeah,
a story there, man, because when I first got this call from the Cincinnati Playhouse in the Park, I was like, no, you need to call. And the guy who referred me, his name's Bert Goldstein from Cincinnati Playhouse. He connected me to the folks at the Underground Railroad Museum that was being built, and they connected me to their website. And these people have had and continue to hold this vision that this story is our collective story. It's a place that we must all know and all share and build upon. So in the vignettes on their website, there were 5 African American vignettes, and there were 5 people who weren't. There was
mm,
an Asian woman, there was a young kid with HIV, it was like, and so we had this really rich dialogue. So it took me a while before I said yes to this, but then I felt with their encouragement and support, I
yeah.
want to. And anyway, I'm so happy you're doing this. Um,
Well, we will continue the work. I have this philosophy that the best art is when you find yourself in others. Like the best outcome is
mm,
when you see something, experience something, and you see yourself reflected back, whether it's a cultural reflection, whether it's just a memory, or whatever it is. When we do that, I
mm.
think that's the best of the world when that happens.
Well, good segue because one of the cool things about our project together is that you're going to be writing. I think you've already written a monologue that we're going to bring into the show. Say a little bit about, without giving it away, a little bit about why it's important for you and what you're drawing on.
So, in light of sort of the attention being put on Black Lives Matter and on police actions against citizens, um, corrupt police, or just people who are in this situation and devalue human life, I too have had a Finding North moment, and it involved an encounter with the police. And had I not had something to sort of look ahead to, I think that moment could have destroyed me.
It's pretty evident from what you just said that this is a story that's ongoing, that this kind of injustice and blindness and pain is around us, surrounds us. Um, but I wonder if there's anything you want to add to that.
It's very easy to forget, like, that there are people who are being demonized, and these are your neighbors, or these are the people that maybe you've ignored, but it doesn't mean they don't exist. It doesn't mean they don't vibrate. It doesn't mean that they don't want the same things that you want, you know and so to uncover that, it's like I always say, the story belongs to the storyteller. So if you don't get an opportunity to tell your story within the human thread, if too much time passes, your story may never even be told at all.
Mhm.
You know. So,
Mhm.
I'm curious. What is your favorite? Do you have a favorite monologue? We all have our babies, when we.
Yeah, wow. There's part of the story where John P. Parker actually goes into um, Strophe's house to rescue the baby, and to essentially take back the McDowell's child who was put in the slave owner's, the master's house, so that the parents wouldn't leave. And there's this moment where he goes and he touches the door and he's like, I'm taking my own life in my hands. And he pulls back because the latch won't give. And it won't give a first time and it won't give a second time. And it's like, how far do you go?
Mm,
There are stops, when there are obstacles.
mm,
And finally the latch gives and the door opens. And so there's a moment there where it's all this sort of strength coming up to it, but his own humanity, his own sacrifice, his own family is in this little latch. Is it going to open?
mm.
And it becomes this very, very precise moment where his own vulnerability meets his conviction.
Wow.
And I think that is a really delicate place to sort of bring to life, and so that's one of them. Um,
Wow.
so, yeah.
Wow. I love the shoes, by the way.
It's all true. I'm going to get a copy of the book. You'll see it. It's great. So, Daniel, thank you so much for this interview. And it's going to be great to go on tour. I just want to let everybody know that we'll come out together. Daniel's going to be performing all the narrations, and I will be accompanying on guitar. And we'll be doing Q&As together. And we hope that our Q&As are not merely about the work, but about, let's say, the work with a small W, but about the work with a big W. Daniel and I both, I think, speak for both of us, identify as social artists, hoping that what we do activates and motivates folks to get engaged with the issues of their world and their lives. And so we hope that our conversations and Q&As open into those kinds of spaces as well.
I'm looking forward to the dialogue, to the discussion, and the share.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Daniel. Appreciate it.
Thank you, David.
Bye now. See you.
See you.